Welcome to the Global Goals Studio, where our focus is the intersection of business and climate, which can be a very perilous place to be. Goal 12 of the SDG's 17 goals is responsible consumption and production, a key goal to meet if we're to have any chance of reducing the threat of climate change. To discuss this topic, we're fortunate to be joined today by Paul Polman, co-founder of Imagine, which is an innovative benefit corporation and foundation working with business leaders to achieve the global goals. We're also joined by Marylin, Ceci, managing director and head of green bonds for JP Chase, and architect and urban planner Stefano Boeri. Welcome to you all.
Well, welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Polman, if I could start with you, you've got lots of experience at this intersection of business and climate. 2020 was meant to kick off a decade of action to make the SDGs a reality, but we were losing ground even before COVID-19 struck. Now, the scientists agree, of course, that global greenhouse gas emissions do, of course, help drive climate change. Greenhouse gas emissions from this chart shows you power production, agriculture, buildings, transportation, and industry, all of those emissions continue to rise. So my question for you is, has the pandemic dashed hopes for real change? Are the climate goals, specifically the climate goals within the SDGs, achievable in these 10 years?
So thank you for asking, Richard. And without any doubt, it wasn't working before COVID either. Climate change was on a 3% plus trajectory. Gender equality would have taken us 257 years. Inequality was going up. So we cannot be proud of where we came from. Then COVID came, and I think the good thing about COVID is it has woken up a lot of people. First of all, it showed us that we cannot have healthy people on an unhealthy planet. It also showed us that companies that were run a little bit more responsibly, a multi-stakeholder, longer-term model, environmental, social, and governance, if you might call it, actually did better. And last but not least, we've also been able to show that if we galvanize people around a common objective, in this case, tragically, COVID, we can take actions collectively and individually very fast. And that is true for climate change as well. Climate change and inequality are closely related and probably the most burning issues of our time that we have to deal with. The encouraging thing, I believe, is that people are now increasingly understanding the relationships between biodiversity, between human health, between climate, between the economy, and that this is an issue that needs to be tackled holistically. What we now see, not surprisingly, even this week in the UN, some pretty aggressive commitments. China yesterday wants to be at net zero in 2060. That's at least a stake in the ground from the biggest emitter. Not fast enough at this point in time, but this is one of the most aggressive commitments we've seen coming from that part of the world. I also believe that some of the trailing countries that are absolutely key to become part of this will start to make their own commitments, the US more likely after the elections. What is needed to get there? The reality is that we have the tools and the means to do it. And we certainly can get to the Paris Agreement of staying below 1.5 degrees, which requires us to be net zero by 2050. De facto, that means a 50% reduction in carbon emission between now and 2030. And the three requirements, very simply, is to first of all measure it. Companies that measure, internalize, put a price on carbon, do better and also make more progress. The second thing is that we need to get the financial markets behind it at scale. Increasingly, the financial markets are waking up not only to the risks, but also to the opportunities of carbon mitigation. We've seen incredible performance from companies like Tesla or green energy companies, whilst trailing car companies or trailing fossil fuel companies have seen their market caps be decimated. And then last but not least, we do need to get the governments on board. This is a whole of society issue that we can only solve if we all make our contributions. Business undoubtedly has a role to play. It is clear that business is stepping up. I would argue in many places running ahead of the governments, but we now also need to get more aggressive government plans. If we have those three things lined up and put our collective willpower behind it, there is no reason why we cannot achieve these targets, Richard.
Thank you so much for sharing that insight. Guests, please stay with us. We're going to go for a very quick break, and we'll be right back with Global Goals Studio. Thank you.
When I first came to TFI, it was safe to say that I was a very closed-minded inner city kid.
You definitely feel that you are making an impact on someone's life.
Mentors are instrumental for me. I was always looking for ways to give back because without mentors, I don't know what I would do.
Among these men, there may be a General Powell, a Mayor Bloomberg, and Albert Einstein.
Coming here has shifted my lens, my perception on the world, and has changed who I am.
We're grateful to have partners like J.P. Morgan stepping up to meet the challenge. These are our future leaders, the kids in this room.
Things are serious when it comes to your education, because a diploma can get you somewhere.
I feel like without TFI, I would have been doomed. I wouldn't even applied for college, to be honest.
I'm going to be a first-generation graduate that goes to college.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
One of the biggest things I learned was definitely the importance of diversity of experience and ideas.
Get out of your comfort zone, because at some point in life you have to, and there's no backing out of it. Sometimes you just gotta go.
I'd like to especially congratulate the young men. You're the ones who did it. You're the ones who stuck with it. You're the ones who didn't quit. You're the ones who came to believe in yourselves perhaps more than you did when you started the program.
It gave me a different perspective of life, a different perspective of my goals and where life could take me.
I've learned to never judge a book by its cover. People don't have to be from your situation to understand you.
TFI really said, if you think this is the baseline, you have to raise your expectations. And I'm so thankful for the program.
Thank you.